You're tuned into a head-to-head battle between the MSI Prestige 15 and the Dell XPS 15, my daily laptop. Which one will come out on top? Coming at you right now. If you're new to the channel, my name is Benji Kaiser. This is where you're going to find the best tech and tools for creative professionals. So if that sounds like your kind of place, consider subscribing and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of the future videos. Like I said, right now we're talking about the MSI Prestige and the Dell XPS 15. Two really well-built laptops, all aluminum casings, but slightly different keyboard decks. If you're curious about the exact pricing or specs of either of these models as we're going through the video, you can head down in the description below and click one of those links. Now, if you do use that link, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. But that's what keeps this channel alive and helpful content coming your way. Do know that if you're interested in getting a discount on the MSI Prestige 15, you can purchase it over at Computer Upgrade Kings with the discount code BEN3. All right, let's dive back into the content. At first glance, when you pull these laptops out of the box, they're quite similar, but the MSI weighs in at about a half pound lighter than the Dell XPS 15. The MSI Prestige weighs 3.6 pounds, where the Dell XPS 15 weighs 4.1 pounds. The Dell XPS 15 has a far more finished look. The aluminum chassis is thicker and a bit more dense. However, the MSI has an all-aluminum build, whereas the Dell XPS 15 has a carbon fiber key deck and side panels. This gives the MSI a slight edge on the Dell XPS 15 in my opinion. Both laptops come with screens with incredible color accuracy, 100% Adobe RGB and sRGB color gamut range for both of these laptops. The MSI Prestige features a matte 4K display, whereas the Dell XPS 15 has a glossy 4K screen. Although both screens have vivid colors and great contrast, I really like the screen on the Dell XPS 15. It's got deeper dark tones and better highlights, just has better color overall as well. Both laptops are going to have roughly the same amount of battery life. Depending on the tasks you're performing, the battery will last anywhere from around 6 to 8 hours. Now that just depends on if you're going to be using Microsoft Word and doing simple MS Office suite work, or if you're going to be graphic designing, photo editing, or video editing. Let's talk about the ports, and as you see, I'm putting the ports on the screen now. I always recommend people to consider their day-to-day life as a creator. What ports do you need in your workflow? One thing that I will point out about MSI's foresight is to include a dongle with extra ports to plug into the Thunderbolt port. I really like the thoughtfulness here. This dongle really evens the playing field with portability, but I do like having the SD card slot directly on my device. Again, this really comes down to preference, so make sure to consider your workflow. Both laptops come with a 720p webcam for anyone who does video calls on the regular, like myself. Also, it is good to note that I was getting pretty solid audio out of the MSI speakers while listening to tunes and doing some editing. The Dell XPS 15, not so much. I really don't appreciate the quality of the speakers on the Dell XPS 15. It's somewhere they could make some improvements. The keyboard on the MSI Prestige is smooth and spongy. It is a bit softer than the Dell XPS 15. I do like that both keyboards have some nice spacing on the side of the keyboard deck. For me, I always prefer that. I don't like when I get to the outer keys. It always feels like my hands are going to kind of just fall off the keyboard deck if there's not enough spacing there. So these laptops have done well at that. The trackpad on this Prestige is a clear winner for me. With the great touch, click, and gesture sensitivity, I can tell that the R&D department over at MSI has been paying attention to the needs of creators and has answered the call with a quality product. The Dell XPS 15 trackpad is still a disappointment to me. It is clunky, it is inaccurate with the right and left clicks, and it has poor touch sensitivity. I myself use a mouse 99.9% of the time. I was most recently on a flight back from a conference I went to. Trying to edit on the plane was it was a nightmare. So there's one big improvement that I think Dell could make on the XPS 15 is that trackpad. It needs some improvements desperately. All right, now let's jump into the performance section and talk about how these two laptops handle the tasks of a creative professional. The MSI Prestige comes with the Intel 10th Gen 6-core i7 10710U processor, 64 gigs of RAM, the NVIDIA GTX 1650 Max-Q, and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. The Dell XPS 15 comes with the Intel 9th Gen 6-core i7 9750H processor, 32 gigs of RAM, the NVIDIA GTX 1650 non-Max-Q edition. It's good to know it's going to have some more power. It's not that mobile version of the GPU, and it comes with 1 terabyte of SSD storage. Now, overall, these two computers will handle graphic designer, photographer, creator tasks very well. They have the performance you need to edit photos, to work in Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. Next, I'm going to jump into the video editing tests to see how these two computers handle the video editing tasks. Now, when we run these tests, we're going to see some slight differences. As you notice, there's some differences in the processor, the GPU, and the RAM. The first thing I want to note is that the 64 gigs of RAM is a little bit overkill in the MSI. If you're a graphic designer, 16 gigs of RAM is going to be solid. If you're a video editor, 32 gigs of RAM is going to be solid. Maybe 64 if you want to run multiple programs at the same time. It takes a lot of RAM to run programs like Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, so I always suggest getting as much RAM as possible. If you don't know much about RAM memory, basically every time you open a new program, it takes away from that RAM memory. Photoshop itself can use about 6 gigs of RAM memory. Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve can use anywhere from 8, 12, 16 gigs of RAM memory, depending on how heavy you're using the program. So RAM memory is very important to make sure your computer runs smooth and efficient. Alright, the processors. The MSI comes with the latest Intel 10th Gen 6-core i7 10710U, whereas the Dell XPS 15 comes with the Intel 9th Gen 6-core i7 9750H. They are both 6-core i7 processors, but there's one important difference that will reflect in the tests. The 10th Gen is a mobile U processor built for thin and lightweight laptops, whereas the 9th Gen is an H standard processor making its way into desktop computers and slightly thicker ultrabooks. The mobile U processor is built for everyday productivity tasks. That's its main offering. So Microsoft Word, web browsing, Excel sheets, etc. Whereas the H processor is built for workstations, gaming, and now creators. The mobile U processor can boost up to similar levels to the H processor, but it cannot as easily reside at that level of performance and will often scale back or throttle back to stay cool. Now, with proper computer knowledge, you can get more performance out of the CPU with what is referred to as overclocking, but I don't like to get into all of that on my reviews. I like to test the computers straight out of the factory so you know what you will get without fumbling around with and risking overheating or destroying your laptop. If you overclock your laptop and it burns up, you will own the whole lump. It completely voids the warranty. Okay, computer science lesson over. Let's get back to the video. If you are familiar with my channel, I run the exact same video editing tests on every one of my laptops. So no matter which laptop you're looking at, you can review the laptops head to head, even if it isn't this style where I'm doing 2 laptops head to head in one video. So I'm going to take a 9-minute 4K clip, put it into Premiere Pro, and export it out at full 4Quality 4K settings. The MSI Prestige does this in 8 minutes and 38 seconds, whereas the Dell XPS 15 does this in 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So not a huge difference there, which is actually pretty awesome, being that the MSI Prestige is a good bit less in price. Now, if you want to save some time, export out that same clip to 1080p. The MSI Prestige 15 can do that in 4 minutes and 4 seconds, and the Dell XPS 15 can do that in 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Now, how loud is this computer when you're running these exports and when these computers are just idling? The MSI Prestige and the Dell XPS 15 idle at around 35 decibels. They also export at around 45 decibels, with the Dell XPS 15 actually being slightly quieter at around 42 to 43 decibels. So overall, the Dell XPS 15 is actually going to be slightly quieter than the MSI Prestige. Both of these laptops have the excellent playback in Premiere Pro, which is a big positive for me. I like being able to play the 4K footage at full quality without any lagginess or jumpiness in the timeline when I'm editing or just simply watching it through. If you're looking for a lightweight, well-built laptop, both of these are going to be great buys. As you see, for graphic designers, photographers, and even video editors, they're pretty close in the performance category. Now, if you want to get slightly faster export times, then the Dell XPS 15 is going to be the way to go. If you're curious about the exact pricing and specs, like I said, links are in the description below. And if you do make a purchase, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you, which I always appreciate because that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. I'm Benji Kaiser of BenjiKaiser.com. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date on all the future videos. I'll see you here on the next one.